Stay on schedule, so I'm going to be brief. I want to tell you all a little bit about Earl Erickson. Earl has not always lived in Paris, and the man walking right back there is who I'm talking about. Taking rail bank right away and trying to make something of it is a walk in the park for Earl. Because let me tell you what he did do as the director of city parks and recreation in the city of Pasadena, Texas. With no right-of-way, he started with 0 right-of-way. He was the driving force for the city of Pasadena, Texas to put in over 40 miles of hiking and biking trails. That's why nobody argued when we said, who do we want to be our leader for this coalition? Everybody knew we wanted to pick Earl Erickson. That's the man who just got there speaking to you. As y'all can see, he's still active, even though he's been injured on a bicycle accident. Earl believes in what he's doing, and we support him wholeheartedly. And Earl, once again, we thank you for being our leader. I'm going to speak briefly about DeKalb. DeKalb was one of the quickest starters here. We got our start mainly from horse people, though. And ours came from 2 people, they've now since passed away, named Earl Smith and Brother T.O. Pines, Thurman T.O. Pines. These 2 gentlemen were some of the earliest pushers of getting something going with this right-of-way out here. It just lay there and got abused and kept getting abused and disused and disregarded. And we had a meeting that Chamber of Commerce kind of hosted, and it was called the DeKalb Improvement Committee. And somebody just happened to mention, you know, what's been happening to that railroad bed out there that's empty? Well, in 1997, the rails trails people came along and they were going to do this and they were going to do that and they were going to do this. And so my ears perked up and I said, Rails to Trails has been involved? Got to checking. Sure enough, that whole thing's been rail banked. And nobody knew anything to do with it. So we just started talking. I brought it up to our industrial board. We have, Steve, we don't need to bore anybody, but we have gone after some of the most major industrial prospects you've ever seen. We had a high-tech composites company we worked a year and a half on. This company's process is done in 8 places in the world. And guess where we had them coming? DeKalb, Texas. They love DeKalb. The owner of the company was a roper. He's a nationally known roper, team roper. Love Texas. He's coming out of California. Don't want to bore you with the details. We fought for him. We got the governor's office involved. We got the county involved. We got 2 junior colleges involved. We lost them to the Choctaw Indians in Mississippi. And that's just because they got more money than yeah. And it seemed like every time we came even and we got a little bit ahead, here come the Choctaws with more money. Needless to say, once again, Steve, you know how many times we've had that happen to us. We were the bridesmaid, not the bride. So, what was our attitude? Until something changes on a national scale, about prosperity, money freeing up, things like that, let's take what we have and make something out of it. And that's basically been our impetus ever since, is because we said, look, we've got rail banked right away. We see rail bank trails developed all over the country. Everybody else has already started, and you're going to see the talk I'm giving on equine tourism. You're going to see what recreational tourism will do for your towns and your cities. And so that's why we said we're going to start it and we're not gonna stop it. It may take 20 years, but we're not gonna stop it. We're not gonna walk away from it. We're not gonna, we can't build it in a day, but maybe our kids can finish it. But we're gonna start it, and we're gonna keep pushing it. Maybe push a little harder today than we did yesterday. Maybe tomorrow we gotta slack up a little bit, but we're gonna keep pushing. By Guinea, that's the city of DeKalb, and that's Western Bowie County. And that's where we started, and that's why we're here. So I want to say welcome to DeKalb. We were the second entity to host the Trail Managers and Supporters meeting. This is back when we still had the help of the National Park Service helping us to get organized. The second meeting held ever of the coalition was right here in DeKalb, and it was right here in this very room. And that kicked it off, and we've been going ever since. All right. Trail Managers progress reports, news, updates, anything. Bob Moody, can you talk anything about the Chaparral Trail? I know y'all have a big event tomorrow.
We do. Kevin Lee out of the Dallas metropolitan area is putting on an event through his company, Spinistry, and it'll be primarily a mountain bike event which will start in Farmersville tomorrow, and the riders will be able to go as far as they want to go, including come all the way to New Boston if they want to. But most of the work will, or most of the ride will probably be done on the Chaparral Trail, which is a part of the Northeast Texas Trail. It's been there a lot longer than the entire 132 miles, but it goes from Farmersville to Paris. Okay, and we've been doing a lot through volunteers like Tracy, and you'll hear some more about that in a few minutes. Been doing a lot through volunteers. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do a whole lot with, you know, our local governments and those kinds of things, but the Chaparral Trail has a separate board. Two of our board members for Northeast Texas Trail have just joined the Chaparral Trail board. And we're just trying to make something happen on that end of the trail.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Are they leaving tomorrow from Farmersville?
I think it's like a 7 or 8 o'clock start.
9 o'clock. 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
Oh, okay, good.
Now, let me say this one thing I noticed, because it's Facebook.
It is.
On Facebook, we do have a very good and active presence on Facebook in two different places. One is the Coalition Facebook page, Northeast Texas Trail Coalition has an official Facebook page, and then we have, let's call it just a popular Facebook page, okay? The user one that has a lot of more activity that doesn't involve, we try to watch it, we try to see how y'all are talking, how y'all are interacting, but we pretty much like to stay out of it, except when we're trying to give some information or something. We're leaving that up to most of y'all. That's the NE, if y'all want to make a note, NE Texas Trail. And Earl or somebody else may have to help me on our official one. NE Texas Trail is the popular one. And what's the official coalition? Northeast?
Northeast Texas Trail.
No, you're talking about the website. I'm talking about the Facebook page, Earl.
Is that the one you sent me the invite for?
I sent you.
Recently?
I think I sent you an invite for all three things. Web page,
Right. Well,
Facebook
I've had
page.
the other one for
What?
a while. It's just that I think the coalition I just got.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. You remember what's
Just Northeast Texas Trail. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, see, that's the one I'm more
Northeast?
active
Yeah,
on.
Northeast is spelled out. Northeast is spelled out, and that's the official one that the coalition makes sure nothing but official, correct information is on there. And look, I've seen some wild stuff on the other one. And every now and then I have to jump in to try to say, well, that's not some correct information, so we straighten that up. We pretty much try to let that be y'all's, and a lot of activity on that page. And then the website, Earl, is what? www.northeasttexastrail.org. Okay. All right, central area. Who's going to speak for Earl? Go ahead. And look, when he gets through, if y'all got any specific questions about the central area, speak up, because that's what we're doing right this second.
The central area is Lamar County, Representative Development Foundation. They have the rail line from Paris, all the way to the west city limit of Clarksville. So it includes parts of course, Lamar County and Red River County. I want to start off by saying that a big event is going to be happening in Paris, July the 18th, right, Becky?
July 19th.
19th, okay. That's a Saturday, the third weekend in July. It's a tour to Paris. And the 25K is run on the Trail of Paris, which is a segment of the Northeast Texas Trail. And right now, in that section, we have a completed asphalt trail from Paris over to Reno's west city limit, which is 6.5 miles. And probably the middle of the summer, we will have completed another 3.5 miles from Reno city limit to Blossom city limit, and that's via Texas Parks and Wildlife grant. And then this time next year, we'll have another 1.5 miles completed through the city of Blossom. It's another grant from Texas Parks and Wildlife. And just had a conversation with a gentleman who's a Mennonite on the trail south of Blossom, and he has a catfish farm and sells chickens there, and was not too happy about the trail when he found out that the road that he had built into his catfish farm was on our corridor. But anyway, we had a nice discussion here about 6 months ago, and right before Christmas, he called me back and said, hey, I've done a 180 on my thinking about this rail trail corridor. He said, I've relocated my road. It's going to be across the trail instead of parallel to it, and I'd like for you to come out and visit with me. And so I did, and in our conversation, like I said, he's a Mennonite, and you should have seen the road he built. It was beautiful, and I knew he could really handle big equipment because of the road that he did. And he said, hey, we've got a private school in Detroit that our kids go to, and they could use this trail as a safe route to school. They could ride their bikes to school, couldn't they? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, who would have to get permission to come in and clear and grade this thing over to Detroit? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, give me 2 hours to go home and I'll have you the official answer. But I can tell you right now, you can do it. Yeah. So anyway, he's in the process of doing that. And then I'm going to let Ann tell you about a great opportunity we have that with some foundations, local foundations and big foundations, to actually do it in Red River County. So also, and I'm going to let Tracy, of course, she'll be talking about the work day that she did here last Saturday in Roxton. But Roxton is another piece of Lamar County that's 12 miles. When we get that thing cleared, we'll have 24 miles one way in Lamar County that you can ride. So that's a 50-mile round trip.
Good news, Earl, good news. Okay. If anybody's got any questions, before you leave today, somebody will be able to answer your question, okay? So if you want to know the rail banking agencies, where their boundaries are, things like that, we can do it. We can cover it. We can make sure you know it, get your questions answered. Sometime today we'll probably cover it. All right, eastern end. The eastern end is broken up a lot more than the western and the central section is. The eastern end, the rail banked agencies are Bowie County, City of Avery, City of Anona, City of Clarksville. And like Earl said, the Greater Parish Development Foundation is not restricted to Lamar County. It actually comes into Red River County and goes up to the west side of the City of Clarksville. Then the City of Clarksville has the City of Clarksville plus half the distance to Anona. Anona picks up there and goes half the distance to Avery. Avery picks up there and goes to the Bowie County line. And then Bowie County has all of it in Bowie County up to Highway 98, where the city of New Boston just recently took over and expanded outside their city limits. So, on the eastern end, very quickly, I don't think we've got the two people that need to even mention something. And Gary, I'll save you to a little bit later because we're trying to stay on schedule. Ann, you got anything to talk about Clarksville?
I'll give everyone an update. We presently have an active grant with Texas Parcel Wildlife for 2 miles of our trail. And we predict, our engineer does, that by the end of September, we will be completed with our project, the very latest, the end of the year. Presently getting ready to go out for bids for the bridges. That's what we're
Great.
doing.
Great.
So that's nice, and we have it 90% cleared, and then we'll start working on the pavement area and signage as well. And then the opportunity that Earl was speaking of is that the city of Clarksville, Earl, different ones from Paris, and different stakeholders, you might say, met at the city of Clarksville with the Martha David and Babby Lennox Foundation and a representative from the Meadows Foundation. And the Lennox Foundation had approached the Meadows Foundation with asking would they be interested in matching Lennox funds if they gave, for instance, $100,000 toward the clearing of the unincorporated areas, you know, the trail, would they do the same? So they came down and we gave everyone a tour, a guided tour, and we appreciate everyone that assisted with that. And I understand the Meadows Foundation will meet in June and maybe make their determination at that time. So we appreciate so much the Lennox Foundation. They have done so much. Lamar County, Red River County for this trail.
Yes. Now, that particular possibility, and right now it's still just a possibility, but we believe it's a very strong one, is going to cover the entirety of Red River County from one end to the other. Everybody knows Red River County was probably the last one to really get on board, but in the last 2 years, all that's changed, all that's gotten better, especially with the leadership of the city of Clarksville and a few key people in certain of the smaller towns. It's really picked up, and now you have a chance to actually get about a $200,000 grant that's going to be spread from the west side of Red River County to the east side of Red River County. So good job, Red River County. All right, I represent Bowie County. If y'all have been anywhere close to here, you know how beautiful the trail is between here and Avery. You probably also already know how ugly the trail is from here to Boston. There's nothing we can do about it. In a minute, we're going to spare just a few minutes. The engineer for the county on the highway project that works with TxDOT is here. He's been a regular visitor to our meetings. John, thank you for coming again today. I tell you, he's just a wealth of information. He keeps us updated, so we're glad you're here, and I'll give you a few minutes in just a minute, okay? And Gary, I've told you we got the spot for you. Any other news on the eastern end of the... Okay, everybody knows our Texas State barbecue cook-off going on in the park with trail rides. Y'all saw the users out there. Okay. Now, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Keep along those same lines, you might let everybody know it, and if you want to pass it on to some of your cooks out here, we have a barbecue cook-off in our Langford Lake.
May 17th.
May 17th in Clarksville.
May 17th in Clarksville. Put it on your calendar.
It's on our website if you need it.
Okay, good. Please make sure it gets posted to Facebook, that sort of thing. Because I'm going to tell you, I can tell you more. I'll tell you more about that in one of my presentations. Okay, now it's time to introduce the darling of DeKalb. That's what we call her. Let me tell you something. This is a dynamite young lady. Not only is she a hard worker, not only is she a fitness person, an outdoors person, inside of her is just the finest of character, finest of morals. I can't say enough good things about her. I've gotten to know her a lot since she first came on the scene with the trail. How many of you even know what she's known for? Okay, well then I get a chance to fill in some gap for some folks. Tracy Rumsey was the first woman who attempted to hike the Northeast Texas Trail and almost did it. Almost succeeded. She attempted to, but let me tell you, The reason she didn't wasn't her fault. But she almost made it. Hiking by herself, solitary hiking. She did not sleep in anybody's, under anybody's shed. She wanted it to be her thing to hike the trail, one end to the other, alone. First woman to do it. And I tell you what, she brought so much attention to the Northeast Texas Trail, just like Dean Nix's ride did. The interest that followed her just exploded again when she publicized what she was doing and as she did it. So Tracy, if you would, come on up here. What I'm going to tell you is her presentation, we all know why she couldn't complete her trek like she really wanted to. But let me tell you what this girl did. She didn't go home and whine about it. She didn't go home and say, well, them dead-gum people, I'll try it again when they get it finished. What she did, she immediately set about saying, what can I do so that by the time a year is over from my first attempt, I'm actually going to be able to through hike that trail alone, one end to the other. Tracy Rumsey.
I might need to dim a little bit of lights so we can see this.
Tell us when you're ready.
I'll let you get it up here, but woo!
Are you ready now?
I'm not scared. Okay, we're ready. Okay.